are listening to the Secret of Six-Figure Women Entrepreneurs podcast, and I'm your host, Brittany Jean. I'm a six-figure business owner, brand photographer, and strategist, wife, and red wine lover. And I'm giving you permission to get cozy, grab a glass of wine, and learn from women entrepreneurs who are sharing their best kept secrets of how you too can reach six figures or more in your business so you can truly live your most desired lifestyle when you first got your brilliant idea to be your own boss. So I'd like to welcome Ciana, owner of a six-figure faith-based online clothing shop, Bash Baby Clothing. She's a business owner, and probably her most special and favorite title is mom to a cute baby boy. Ciana, welcome. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you, Brittany. Yeah, I'm so excited to be here. And mom is definitely my favorite title, so we got that right.
I love that. I love seeing you and Bubba. Oh my gosh, so cute.
Thank you.
And so I want to start off by just having you share a little bit more about your story and what you do, who you serve. If you can share that with the listeners, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, for sure. So like you said, my name is Ciana. I'm the owner of Bash Baby Clothing. I also have another business. It's called Mama's Making Money. I'll get into that a little bit later with you guys. But as far as Bash Baby Clothing, it's a faith-based t-shirt shop, mostly for families. So we specialize in creating unique and modern designs centered around faith, momming me, and diversity inclusive pieces. So that's a little bit of everything going on, but my audience really loves it, so it works. As far as serving women for Bash Baby Clothing, I mainly serve Christian moms, mostly who are looking for a sense of community. So motherhood is tough on its own. So there's no reason to go through it alone and add that extra stress to it. So Bash Baby Clothing really serves as a community for like-minded moms who are just looking to bond through Christ and motherhood. So as far as Mama's Making Money, now that one started after I received, I don't know how many DMs of the same exact questions of people asking me, how I started Bash Baby Clothing and how I was able to grow it the way that I did. And so after probably the 30th DM, I was like, okay, it's time for me to start a page so I can help people in a more organized way. So that's how that started. So with Mama's Making Money, I seek to help women and mompreneurs who are Christian and who are looking to grow a profitable e-commerce business. And key on profit, because I've noticed a lot of women, especially Christian women, we are kind of scared or we feel some kind of shame or insecurity about making money. And I just really want to encourage women to help them to understand that that is not, biblically defensible. And it's 100% possible to make an income, stay home, and serve the Lord all at the same time. So that's kind of my mission around Mama's Making Money.
I love that. I love that. And this is going to be such a great conversation because, not only will you share tips of launching a six-figure clothing business and, the challenges and how you overcame them, but like you said, your faith and money, which is such a taboo in Christianity and also in religion in general. And I love that you brought that up because, this podcast is about obviously making money. And so me being a Christian as well, that is something that I've struggled with, that I've heard a lot of people say that they don't want to make a lot of money because they think it's, not serving the Lord. Right. And I think that couldn't be further from the truth. And so I can't wait to get a little bit more into this conversation about that. And can you share with us a little bit more about how you got started? Did you always know you were going to be a business owner?
I always chuckle to myself when I get this question because it's not a typical answer and it's not one that, most people would give you. But I'm very blunt. I'm completely honest with my story and with everything. So honestly, I started Bash Baby Clothing because I was desperate. In complete honesty, I was in a situation that I knew I needed to get out of, and I couldn't muster up the courage to do it on my own. So one day I finally started really getting into my Bible, really connecting with the Lord, and I started reading a plan on the Bible app, and it was to read the New Testament in 60 days. So once I started getting into that, I was able to hear God more clearly and hear the way that he spoke to me. And one day I just heard him loud and clear. He told me to get up and go. Yeah, it was honestly amazing. I'm so grateful that, he spoke to me in the way that he did, but he told me to get up and go and I listened. So I moved across country. I had a 3-month-old baby. I was a newly single mom. I had, no job, no savings, and two very steadily increasing attorney bills. Thank you to this lovely parenting plan. So, I needed a way to make money like now. And this was right when COVID was getting scary. This is March 2020. So like daycares, nannies, like that was on a thing. And I had a 3-month-old and I was living with my parents. So, I'm thankful that they took me in, but no one was able to watch him while I, looked for a job or went out to work because everyone was already working, they're 9 to 5. So I couldn't, I didn't have anyone to watch him. So I did the whole like, online job application thing. And I don't even think I ever even got a single interview. So that just never worked for me. But again, I just
it wasn't in your plan, huh?
It
Obviously.
was not in my plan,
God's
Brittany.
like, no,
Not
you don't
at
need
all.
this job.
He said, absolutely not, But that's honestly, that's what I did. I just took it to him and I was like, you told me to leave. So one thing about God, if he leads you to it, he's going to bring you through it. And I knew that. And I said, hey, you told me to leave. So it's like, what do I need to do? I need to make an income. And I need, some hope because it was
Wow.
very desperate, a very like depressing time for me in that state because I was only 22, I think at the time. And so it was a lot for me to carry. And he was gracious enough to give me the idea of Bash Baby Clothing. And I wanted to, dedicate it back to him. So that's where the faith-based part came from. And as far as the baby clothing, because it started with just baby clothing, I wanted to pick a niche that I was familiar with. And obviously I had a baby, so that's how that started. And then
I love
it
it.
transitioned right to mommy and me, but that's kind of how that came from. So sense of desperation, a sense of hope, but God made it work.
Yeah, you have an amazing testimony because, I hear a lot of strength, even in the darkest of time that you were going through, there was a lot of strength, and faith. And I didn't really know that about your story. Like, obviously I knew a little bit about what was going on, but I also saw you start this business from the ground up. And I was like, one day I was like, hey, like Ciana, she's starting a baby clothing line. Like, oh, this is cute. Like, and your first tee is like super cute, your first baby onesie. And I was like, oh, this is so cute. And I remember I bought one for a friend photographer who took my brand photos, who basically kind of opened my eyes up to brand photography. And she wasn't even a brand photographer at that time. But I was just like, hey, I want to do a brand photo shoot. Can you do this? Your style is like mine. And then it just evolutionized from there. But like, so yeah, she was one of the first people that I bought like baby products for. I was like, how can I support Ciana? I was like, I love my brand photographer. She's expecting, like, let me buy something for her. And so that's how it started. Yeah. And then I started buying more things, and I bought something for my nephew and my husband. Yeah. So it's just amazing to see like how much growth you've just gone through. And it's just been amazing. And like just seeing you blowing it out of the water and serving, and like the community you've built, especially the community you've built, and sharing your story. Like, this is really what I want to hopefully have people get out of this, because I think that most people are really after like the money, but in reality, like if you can first focus on the community and always focus on that, which I know you said is a big part of your success, which we'll get into, then like you're golden. And so people have a lot to learn from in this, podcast. So I hope they're buckling up, because it's going to be good. And we haven't even gotten started yet. We're just on your story. So, okay. Can you tell me a little bit, or share a little bit more about like what it looked like when you got started? So like, what were some of the maybe like struggles? What did you start off with first? Like, can you dive deep into just like how it all started, as far as like, okay, what did you need to get done first and things like that? Can you share a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. So it was all really fast. I needed to make money right away, and I chose the safest and the quickest route. So I started doing some research, and originally I thought about doing vending machines, and I don't think I've ever shared this part of Bash Baby Clothing. Obviously, it wouldn't be called Bash Baby Clothing, but I thought about doing vending machines because it was quick and it was easy. And then I was like, no, I don't have any kind of passion for that. And just like you said, if you're in a business, for money, I'm not saying it can't work, but it's harder because you're going to have less desire to make it work.
You have to have a deeper why.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. So I started doing some more research and I came upon drop shipping. So a lot of people don't know this, but Bash Away Clothing is technically a drop shipping store. I use print on demand, which is a form of drop shipping, but probably like 90% and like the other 10% is traditional e-commerce fulfillment. So um, I started out by doing print on demand, like in the way that I knew how. So I researched it, and the way that print on demand works is you're essentially like the middleman. So, like if a customer orders from me, I'm going to send that order to my printer. They're going to print the shirt. I pay them afterwards. So I've already gotten the money from my customer. And then I take that money, give it to my supplier, and they print my shirts, and then I ship it out to my customer. Right. So that was my local
Mhm.
version of print on demand. So I wasn't printing anything, there was no like fulfillment really for me. I was just kind of,
Which
shipping
is
out the order.
great being a new mom
Right.
and a business owner.
Exactly. Exactly. And I knew I needed to do that. And had no desire to learn how to like print a shirt and, and I had no room in my home to do that. So yeah, that's what I started doing. And it got really messy, really, I had no desire to ship anything anymore. So I went, full on print on demand with a huge company. So I'm thankful I was able to do that. But when I first started, like I said, it was really messy, and I was just looking for something, to do it the fastest and the safest route. That's the great thing about drop shipping, and why I really advocate for, women or just people who don't have a lot of money to start up, because there's essentially very little or even no start costs. You can get started with just, the cost of
Wow.
your sample. Obviously, you have to register your business. That was a huge challenge for me, because being a first, I think most of us are first generation entrepreneurs, and that was, something that we're not taught. We don't know, who am I supposed to go to when I want to register my business, or what am I supposed to register it as? And then you're always thinking about taxes, because you don't want to, Uncle Sam to come for you. So that was a huge challenge. Yeah, that was a
Scariest
huge
part.
challenge. It is.
Yeah.
So I kind of did that very sloppily, but I think I figured it out. I don't even know if everything's like, up to code, but we won't say that. We won't tell Uncle Sam that. But but yeah, so that was, one of my biggest challenges. And then probably I would say my next biggest challenge would just be to kind of navigate that in motherhood at the same time. That was a really big, I wouldn't say it was challenging in the fact that I didn't have the time to, but it was challenging in the fact that I felt mom guilt. And if you're ever, if you know of a mom, or if you are a mom, anyone who's listening, you kind of feel, a sense of not wanting to leave your child, or, to work, or to have your child see you work. So that was something that I kind of had to go through, but I had to get over it. I had to make money. So, but thankfully my child I think he was around 5 months when I actually launched. So he was still in like the sleeping a lot phase. So I was able to get a
Yeah.
lot.
Newborn stage.
Yeah, I was able to get a lot of work done during naps, during, nighttime. So it worked out, but it's really scrappy. But I think those are kind of the best, stories.
Oh, absolutely. And every entrepreneur starts off scrappy, especially their first business, and I
Hmm.
think that's what makes a true entrepreneur, especially a successful one, is that they're willing to get scrappy, and what's in that scrappy is action. And that's what really propels you forward, right? That's what helps give you the momentum to keep going, because you start to
Hmm.
see success, right? And you start to see what's working, what's not working, and you take forward action.
Hmm.
I love it. And your story, I mean, it's so inspirational, because most people are like, I can't, like, I need to start my business before I have a child, right? Or like, I can't start a business because I have a child. But like, you were a single mom, you also like had a very newborn baby who needed your attention, who you were just still navigating motherhood, and the fact that you were able to do this and become successful, right, in such a short amount of time, in less than a year, like, amazing. So definitely an inspiration to all moms that like, you can do it. It's just having that faith, what other people call as manifestation, if
Yeah.
if they're not spiritual. But it's
Right.
the same thing. It's that faith, and like the visualization of seeing and being certain that like what you want, what you're asking for, what you're asking God for, will come true. you
Mhm.
know So I love that. And can you share, because I know we had talked about before, like sharing a little bit more about like launching and failing and what that looked like, because, obviously as an entrepreneur with a product-based business and even a service-based business, because as a service-based business, I launch programs, and I've seen failure, but I've seen success too in it. And that's because I chose to see success in it, from learning from it and learning how to make it better. So can you share like maybe just a challenge that you had with launching, and kind of walk us through like, what did you do? Why did it fail? What did you learn from it, and how you saw success from it?
Yeah, definitely. So first, I do want to say that I went into entrepreneurship, like you said, it was scrappy, right? And, I was first generation entrepreneur. So I didn't have, I didn't know everything. I didn't know everything that I was doing, everything that I was getting into. But I went into it with research. I didn't go into it unprepared. So I did as much research as I could. I found a coach that I trusted and who was in my niche, who was in my industry. I joined her monthly membership, when I could. And I took it was like an 8-week program with her business is actually like one of my top competitors in my niche. She's like, I think she's doing like 7 or 8 figures. So like way beyond, what I was doing at the time and what I'm still doing. So I was, thankful enough to get into her course. But I say all this to say my very first launch of Bash Baby Clothing actually did very well. And it did well to the point where I thought I was going to make a lot more money than I did, for that month. But that kind of, I'm not going to say it hindered me, but it kind of made me feel like, okay, if I can do it this launch, then all I have to do is, the bare minimum, and my next launches will go well, right? Wrong. So I've had, and I still have to this day, plenty of launches that fail. And when I say launch, I mean, so typically when I launch a new product, I launch a whole collection. So let's take my Thanksgiving Day collection, for example. There's a lot of work that goes into it. So to see a launch fail, Brittany, it is the most frustrating thing I have ever experienced in my life. Like, I think it is more frustrating than like when my son like is screaming at the top of his ears, like at the top of his lungs. It is just the most frustrating thing I've ever experienced. And so it's like, if for those of you that don't know, a launch is not just, creating designs and that's it. It's like you have to plan for it, like however long it takes for you to plan. For me, I'm not the best planner, so I have like 30 days, right? I'll plan out my design.
A lot better than me. I'm like, 2 weeks, let's do it.
Exactly. And that's how I am. I'm so on a whim with things. So I've had to force myself to like come up with a calendar and like create a schedule. So that's a big change that entrepreneurship has caused me. But so as far as the launching, I have to come up with, I used to do like, gosh, per launch, I probably used to do like 50 different designs. And I'm not kidding. It was a lot. And I'm not a graphic designer, so that was really hard for me. So back to launch, you would come up with designs, and then you'd have to put those designs on your mock-ups, or you have to send them to your, brand reps, and then you have to get all the pictures, and then you have to upload those pictures to your website. You have to schedule them. You have to do a whole campaign, email, text marketing, Instagram, whatever your, marketing is. And Thanksgiving launch, I did all of that. The day of launch, no sales. Brittany, I literally sat there and I was like, Lord, this is the day that I quit. I said, this is the day that I give it all up, because it's frustrating. You put in all of this work, for, like I said, 30 days, you're doing all this planning, pre-planning, and then you're spending a week on Instagram talking about it, and it just flops. It is the worst thing ever. But, when that happened, and this is not the only launch this has happened, this is just the most recent one, kind of something I've learned in entrepreneurship. I've learned that a loss is not just a loss. There's always a lesson in it, and that's life. That's in general. But I've learned to, right. I've learned to kind of take the data from that loss. I'm really data driven. And so I've been able to understand that, hey, if something's wrong, it's not my customers. I can't blame them. I didn't do my job. So if it's not something technical, if it's not, sometimes my website is crashing because Shopify is doing whatever they're doing, or sometimes, my product descriptions aren't right, or my pictures are ugly. I just have to be honest with myself and tell myself, what it is straight up, and figure it out. Or maybe it's just my designs. Like I said, not a graphic designer. So it's like, sometimes, a lot of times it's just my design. So it's like I have to really like rethink, figure out again over and over again, because you're going to do this consistently in business, you know, who your target audience is, redefine it, figure out what they're looking for and what they need from you, and then kind of work backwards like that. So launches fail for me all the time, but
I mean,
key
that's so
is to
good to
learn from it.
hear.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
that's I mean, not that
Oh
like
yeah.
you're failing, but it's
Yeah,
so
I
good
get
to
it.
hear. I think for people who will be listening to this
Oh
and
yeah.
who maybe have had several failed launches and they are now shifting the blame onto themselves as and taking it as and internalizing it as like they're not good enough, which I see a lot of entrepreneurs doing. And so there's a few things that I wanted to just kind of sit here with. You know, the first thing that I heard you share is really taking accountability for your overall planning. You know, so like now it's like you make sure that you have 30 days to plan, right? Instead of two weeks like myself. And that's something that I'm trying to get better at. But you also have this self-awareness as well of like understanding that like it's not your customers, it's something that like you did, but you're also not internalizing it and putting it onto your self-worth. You're really taking a step outside of it all and seeing how can I make this better so that I can serve my clients better, you know, because and it's just amazing that you have so much passion in what you do and that you even have that awareness to know that, okay, this didn't work. How else can I serve them? How can I make it better? So, because I know the value that a t-shirt could give, the message within my t-shirt could give to a mom, you know, who might be going through a challenging time or you know, or who just needs that inspiration or that uplifting or to carry the name of Jesus on their shirt, you know? So I love that. Is there anything that you want to add on to that? So I said accountability, self-awareness, and not internalizing failure. Anything else you want to add on?
Oh, for sure, because I think those are three things that a lot of women and just new entrepreneurs in general struggle with. And I struggled with it too. You know, I'm not perfect. And when I do have those launches, you know, sometimes the first thought is saying like, I'm not good enough, you know, or man, like I should have worked harder or so on and so forth. But eventually I get myself out of it. But, you know, something that I do really want to stress for new entrepreneurs, or even if you're a seasoned entrepreneur, is like I said, to take that data and to really learn from it. You know, have your time. It's okay to feel bad. It's okay to, you know, be upset that something didn't work out, but take that data and make something good come of it. And also, please, I see all the time people are blaming their customers, and it is never their fault. The customer's job is to buy, right? And that is their only job. They see something, if they like it, they will buy it. That is it. Your job as a business owner, as a CEO, because that's what we are, is to make sure you have either people in place, or if you're doing everything on your own, that's okay. But you have to make sure that your strategies and your marketing is for that specific person, so that when they see it, they're already ready to buy, right? Because if they're not buying, it's at the end of the day, it's on you, right? So never say, oh, I hear it all the time. Oh, you know, my customers, they commented on my picture and they said, oh, it's so cute. But then when launch day came, they didn't buy, right? And that happens to all of us. It's frustrating, but it's like, you have to understand that, you know, maybe they're just commenting just to comment, but you have to understand that they're not buying for a reason. So it's like, you have to figure out what that reason is. And at the end of the day, you can never make anyone buy from you. You know, obviously it's someone's choice, but again, just really kind of get out of that habit of placing the blame somewhere else, and really, you know, just understanding that there is always something you can do better. And I don't want to say that to kind of, I know entrepreneurship may kind of seem scary and like there's always, you know, something else more you can be doing, but it's true, you know. So I just really want women and entrepreneurs, yes, I want them to kind of sit with that fact that it's never the customer's fault and there's always something you can be doing better. And a lot of the times it's just because we don't know, or we think that we understand marketing, but gosh, marketing is so multifaceted. There's technically 7 parts to it. And a lot of women don't understand that, because we think marketing is posting on Instagram, and it's like, it's not. So you have to understand, you know, an actual strategy.
Right. Most people, I think it's a popularity thing, and that's
Yeah.
not that at all. You know,
Hmm.
there's the marketing and the branding and the messaging that needs to go behind. It's the story. And I want to
Hmm.
share a quick little story too, because like what you said, it just brings me to this conversation that I had with this man who in Jamaica, I was on vacation, and I was going to go get my my COVID test to come back into the States. And so this nurse, he said, hey, if I was selling t-shirts, would you buy some t-shirts for me? And I was like, this is a good like learning lesson. And I was like, what kind of t-shirts? And he was just like, what do you mean? He looked at me like I was like literally like stupid. Like he was just like, I just said t-shirts, man. Like what else do you need from me? Right. And it's like, it's like, well, here's the thing, like there's so many other street vendors who are selling t-shirts to tourists.
Right.
Like what's going to make your t-shirts different? And he was
Right.
like, can you share more? And I was like, yeah. Like I said, like, like what's the mission behind it? Like are you going to be using some of these profits to help, bring awareness to Jamaican workers and, and increasing their pay, like, or things like that, or giving them more access to healthcare since you're in healthcare? Like, what's the mission behind it? Like, why would I want to support your t-shirt company versus someone else who might have it cheaper or the
Hmm.
same shirt? You know what I mean? So like,
Right.
he was like, well, wow, like you're good. And I think it all comes down to the messaging, your messaging and your story. And this is
Hmm.
something that I teach my students in my mastermind. But I wanted to also ask you, um, about your messaging and your story and how you've used that to help your mission. Can you tell us more about that? Because I think you do it so well. And because you also have said, like, your shirts are not like your apparel is not the most affordable, right? Or
Right.
it's more expensive.
Right.
But can you share kind of just the why it's that way and why your clients are buying, even if, it's a pricier t-shirt? Like, why are they buying? What have you figured out about your customer?
Right, right, right. So I'm very transparent. I'm very upfront. And like I said, I sell children's t-shirts for $25. I understand that's expensive. Even for me, if I saw a t-shirt at Target for $25 for my son, I would be like, you have to be kidding me. But, at least I'm honest. But my competitors, a lot of them sell children's t-shirts for 14. So I'm able to add an additional $11. And again, that comes down to marketing and messaging, like you said. There are a lot more, other businesses around me who are selling it for the same price. So I'm not totally out of range. I did do my market research, and I was okay with being on the highest end of that, range. But I've noticed that people connect with people and people buy from people, right? And that's something that I've kind of always had an awareness of. And I'm not sure if I picked that up when I was doing my initial research for Bashable Clothing, or if that's something that I just already knew. Um, but that's something that I always stress, especially women who come to me for help, is sharing your story is so essential to making sales. And I think that a lot of us kind of overlook this. And you don't have to, share your life story. I'm just very open, and I'm a very huge advocate of not wasting your pain. And I just like to share my
Mm,
personal story and, my testimony, because I feel like that's what God has wanted me to do. Right. So if God's not calling you to do it, then, don't do it to make a buck. But,
mm-hmm.
I do always advocate for women to share their story for that reason, because people feel connected with you. People feel like you understand them. I tell my clients to be your target audience's best friend. And I mean that. Like, I have customers' phone numbers, and I'm a terrible texter, but when
That is
when I get the
amazing.
time, yeah, when I get the time, we text, or I have several ongoing messages in my DMs, and I talk to them. I get to take the time to know them, and they know me because I was, open enough to share those dark, sides of my story. When I first started Bashable Clothing, 10% of my sales were going back to the National Domestic Violence. Oh gosh, I can't remember the name right now, but it was a charity, and I donated to domestic violence because that was something that, I was getting fresh out of, and something that was, near and dear to me. And I just wanted to share that part and, help another woman or another man who was going through that. So, I did that with my donations. And when I shared that part of my story, man, Brittany, I can't tell you how many people DM'd me and just said,
Mm,
hey, I'm going through this too. Or, hey, I knew you from high school, college. I would have never known. I'm so grateful that you shared
mhm.
this because I'm going through this. My mom is going through this, or I've seen someone going through it. So it's like there is so much power in not only sharing your testimony, but just being real and honest with people, because there's so much hidden pain on Instagram. We're all going through something,
Mhm.
and that's something that I've realized as I've gotten older. Every single person is struggling with something. So to sit here on social media, or even in, whatever other email marketing, text marketing, I share my story there too, right? So to sit in any kind of marketing place and to not choose to kind of hide the real parts about you, I think you're really doing yourself a disservice. So
Yeah.
that's just something that I teach. And again, you don't have to be, you don't have to share your deepest, darkest fears. I don't even share my deepest, darkest fears. I'm very loose with the things that I do choose to share, and that's fine. But it's like,
Yeah.
especially for smaller businesses, that's a huge advantage that we have. Fashion Nova, Forever 21, their CEO is not going to DM me or text me and say, hey girl, I understand, the struggles that you're facing. So that's something,
Right.
an advantage that we have over these big businesses. So yeah, I would definitely say for women to figure out what parts of themselves that they feel comfortable sharing, and to do it, to share it, to be comfortable, and then take that extra step of talking to your audience, and
Yeah.
listening and hearing them out too. And I'm not saying do this for money, but it works. People will buy from you because they
Yeah.
like you, they trust you, and they feel comfortable with you.
Yeah. Well, you're so brave in sharing your story, and I know some people are not, at that stage to share, and we're not telling you to share, something that's just you're still maybe processing,
Hmm.
but there are parts of you that you can share that can connect you, and it doesn't have to be as deep as this, but it there's parts of you that can relate to other people and to your ideal customer that really can help you make an impact, and not just you know the community, but in the world, because you sharing your story is definitely powerful, and has impacted so many, has impacted me, right? To even share my story as well, like to know that, oh, I can share about this, and like not, not feel like I have to, like, oh, like that's just a small part of me, because it's like, if I know people who are going through that too, and if I can share, my a piece of my story, then it just brings more awareness and brings more of a conversation to talk about it. And yeah, I commend you for being so brave. And the biggest thing is like, you know people get on social media to be social. They don't really get on social media to shop or to buy.
Right.
Now maybe they now they kind of do. Like now for me, I expect to see like a sweater, or like a piece of clothing, um, that I'm like, oh yeah, I want to see that today so I can buy it. But we don't get on there to buy really. And so, but
Right.
when we see you sharing your story, or just sharing something about you that we can connect to and relate to, it draws us in. And I think that most people, they have got it wrong. They think that their product is just going to sell itself,
Hmm.
even if it's super pretty, but they fail to, or if they're just wanting to educate us about how soft their sweaters are, and it's like, okay,
Right.
we want to know more. Like, how is this sweater going to make my life better?
Right.
How's it going to make me feel better?
Right.
Like, how am I going to feel in this sweater, right?
Exactly.
And I think that's so important, and what I feel like most business owners are missing when it comes to promoting their businesses on social media. So
Hmm.
that is just definitely a lesson to learn, is building community. And I think that's one thing that's really helped propel me. And it's so funny because when women say like, I can't keep up with the trends, I can't keep up with the reels, I can't do all this, like every time I get on social media and I'm wanting to like post, everything changes. And I'm like, but the one thing that remains the same is you connecting, you building the community, you building relationships. That stays the same. Everything else about social media can change, but you can really focus on building your community, really treating people like friends, treating them like humans. You're gonna
Exactly.
win no matter what change is happening You know, you don't
Mhm.
have to get on the rules band if you don't want to get on it, and you can still win, you know?
Right.
So, Ciana, can you share with me, just like, did you ever plan for this business to get to six figures? Did you visualize it? Did you write it down, or did it just start like after you saw your first launch success? Did you first see like, oh man, like if I made this much this month, I could make this the rest of the year, you know? Like, how did you like come to be like, I'm going to make six figures?
Right. So that definitely did happen. After my first launch, I had a very different expectation of my business. I was like, oh, I'm gonna hit six figures, next week.
I
Like
love
it
it.
was crazy. But like one thing that I've noticed when I first started my business, my goal setting as far as revenue wise was kind of just me throwing a number up in the air and hoping it stick, right? I had no real, backworking action of how I would get to those goals, right? And I didn't break it down by month, weekday, whatever I really needed to do to hit those goals. So I had a big goal to reach $100,000 in my first year. So that's the goal that I set for myself. Again, I just said, hey, I want to do it. And I was like, okay, it's going to happen because I said I wanted to do it. Right. And
I
I
love
didn't
it.
do it. I think I hit my year mark and I was probably around like 84,000 or something. So it's kind of close, but still far enough off for me to, kind of sit down and realize like, hey, I can't just say I want to reach a goal and then expect it to happen and not do any real work every single day to make that goal happen. And so
Mhm.
I think it finally happened around like, I want to say it was like 14 months or something, or maybe 15 months, somewhere around then. So it wasn't too far off from a year. But what I realized in between that year mark and when I finally did hit that $100,000 is that I needed to, like I said earlier, break down my big goals into smaller, more attainable goals. Because what I realize is if I say, hey, I have a year to make this goal happen, then I'm going to slack off today and tomorrow and next week because I'm like, oh my gosh, I have 360 more days to reach this goal, right? So
Right.
what's me taking, the 6 hour nap today? Nothing. I have tomorrow and the next day. And, that just didn't work for me. So what I've been doing now and what's something that has been really helping me to increase not only daily sales but monthly sales and eventually my annual goal is to, like I said, break it down by, okay, if I want to make $100,000, what do I need to make this month, what do I need to make this week, this day. And then what I've also realized is because a lot of people kind of falsely believe that they need to make, if it's $10,000 a month, you have to make $333.33 a day, right? But it's like, that's so unrealistic in entrepreneurship. There's never going to be a time where you make the same exact amount of money every single day. So what
Right.
I've realized, and I learned this from my coach, was to kind of break down my goals by what I've done in the past, use my data. So if typically I make the most amount of money in my launch days, then I'm going to set bigger goals on my launch days, or maybe on Fridays. That's when I make the most amount of money. So I'm going to set,
Mm,
bigger goals on Fridays. So that's something that I've learned to do. So now I'm kind of more strategic in
I
my
love
goal
that.
setting, but six figures was not planned. It just did not happen when I wanted it to. And then I kind of did something to make it happen.
Yeah, I love it. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. But yeah, I love how you like didn't really have that goal starting off, and then you had a really great launch, and you were like, oh damn, like like I could do this. And that is
hmm
something that I had the goal going into my business the first year because I had done a lot of business coaching and
hmm
seminars, and like they were already like dream big, and I was like, okay,
Right.
this is big. And I'm like, I don't even think now after I hit that six-figure mark, I'm like, I don't think I'm dreaming big enough. Like I'm like, we're going for the $1 million sales, okay? Like that's what we're going for.
Exactly.
Like so it's like, I'm like, oh my gosh, like when I had that goal, like I kind of jot it down, like I jot it down, like, okay, how am I going to get there? What I'm going to do? But then when I first
hmm
had like a really great month, like my first $8,000 month, I was like, oh wow, like this is great. Like I only need
hmm
$8,333 a month to make
Yep.
six figures. Like
hmm
okay, sweet. Like how can I do it? And my months were not always 8,300. Some months were
hmm
like 5,000. Some months were like 12,000.
hmm
Some months were $17,000. So it was just
hmm
like being a service-based business, and it was just me. I was just blown away,
hmm
of like, this is how you can do it, right? And
hmm
planning for those launches too. Like, okay,
Yeah.
well, if I have this many people sign up, this is how much I can bring in.
Right.
So planning backwards is something that's very helpful. And I think when entrepreneurs get started, we don't do that, especially if it's just like a kind of a hobby, which that was me. When I first
Mm-hmm.
started my photography business, I was just like, I'm just gonna make some extra money on the side. Then when I
Right.
went full time, I was like, oh hell no, I can't make I'm like, I can't, I need to plan this, I need to
Right.
forecast all of this. How am I gonna get there? And I
Right.
want to point out that a lot of people think that they need to have like 10,000, 20,000, 100,000 followers to get to this $10,000 a month goal. But when they think about it, it's like, well, like for you, it's like, how many t-shirts do I need to sell? Or how many bundles do I need to sell if you're doing a specific like bundle rate?
Mm-hmm.
And how many would that be? And if you think about it, like you probably only need to sell like 50 like t-shirts, to get you to that $10,000 goal. It might be a little bit more, but like you start to see like, okay, that's, 3 people or, one person who could buy like 10 items,
Right.
so like, you don't need that many followers to get to your goals. And for me, it's like, I only need to book 4 clients a month to get to this goal, to get to
Right.
my goal, oh,
Mm-hmm.
and then I can focus all of my time on providing an excellent client experience for my customers, as well. So I'm not like taking everyone and anyone and exhausting my energy and depleting
Right.
myself, right?
Right.
So, that is so key. So tell me, if someone listening to this wanted to begin an e-commerce business, clothing business, what would you say are the 3 most important things they need to do to get started?
Gosh, I could list 100 things. I'm not very brief if you haven't noticed, but I will
Neither am I.
narrow it down. Right. Okay, good. I'm glad. But I'll try to narrow it down. So the first thing I would say is research. You need to figure out your niche and stick to it. A lot of us are kind of, flimsy and fluid with our niche, which we shouldn't be. But when I say research, you need to do market research, see who's buying that product and if there's really a demand for it, and really understand your market and your niche. And then next, you need to research your competitors. So you need to see what they're doing, see where they're doing well, and see where they're lacking. And that is really key. That's where you want to come in, where your competitors are lacking, right? Because no business can do it all. And that's kind of where I got the idea for Bash Up Clothing. So there's a bunch of, t-shirt shops. There's a bunch of mommy and me t-shirt shops. Like I said, the one lady's course that I took, the one who's doing 7-8 figures, she's a mommy and me t-shirt shop. But one thing that I noticed, all of these big brands, they're, owned by white women, and their t-shirts are for, white children, and nothing against that. But I didn't see any kind of outraging pour of diversity in these brands, right? So that's where I kind of wanted to come in with Bash Up Clothing. I already wanted to do something different with faith-based, because that's already not big in any kind of clothing industry, right? We're not, seeing huge stores, promoting, religion. But so I wanted to come in there. And then I also saw a weak spot in diversity. So that's why I really hone in on creating, diverse and inclusive designs, because that's a weak spot in my niche, and people see it and they draw to it and they bring their friends because, they see that I have something different. So I really want people to understand that you need to figure out where your niche is lacking and come in those spots, right? Because if we're just doing the same exact things as someone else, they're going to go to the other person because they already know them, right? I can't go and try to make another Forever 21 and call it Forever 22 because they're, and sell the exact same things, because they're not going to trust me. They're like, I've already been shopping Forever 21 for years. So, but like you said, with the, Jamaican t-shirt guy, what would make me want to come to you? What do you have that's different? Right. So research, right? And then lastly, you need to research e-commerce. E-commerce is an entire thing of its own, right? I think a lot of us think e-commerce is just, let me put some products on, my website that I made on GoDaddy and expect it to sell. Like that is not going to work, right? Nothing against GoDaddy, but there's, other, Shopify is the best one. There's other, websites for e-commerce, but, whether you hire a coach or, buy a course or do the research on your own, YouTube University, that was me, figure out someone or find someone to really, who understands what it takes to actually build an e-commerce store, and not only build it, but to make it successful and to make it profitable. So that's number one, research. So next, and I said this earlier, but you need to become BFFs with your target audience. So that starts with finding your target audience. I have an entire section in my course. It is 2 hours of how to find your target audience and how to connect with them, because those go hand in hand, right? So I teach people how to find a proven, buying audience, because we don't want just a bunch of followers who like our stuff but never buy, because, we don't know their buying power, or we don't know, if clothing is something that they spend their money on. Maybe they like to travel or whatever. There can be people who like your stuff, but that's not what they buy, right? That's not what they spend on. So I teach people how to find that, how to, differentiate between the different types of target audiences. But you need to really understand your audience. So first find them, figure out how you can connect with them, and then really hone in on being their BFF, right? So that means talking to them. When they're posting on their stories, sliding up every time, communicating with them, just opening that door to get to really know someone. And that helps you to see how these people are outside of social media, right? Because that's what we really want to know. We don't want to know, how that this person posts 6 selfies, every week. Right, or something. That's not what we want to know.
We want to know about their life.
Exactly.
Right.
We want to know why.
Outside of social media.
Yeah. We want to know, what are they thinking about at night? What keeps them up at night? I remember I hired someone to do my abandoned cart email flow, and she asked me that question. She's like, what keeps your audience up at night? And I was like, gosh, I never even thought about that. But it's those kind of deep, oddball questions that really help you to understand who you're truly talking to. And then once you figure out who you're talking to, gosh, selling is a walk in the park. So that's number 2. But number 3, I would just say to understand what marketing really is. And again, if you have to YouTube University, if you have to hire a coach, whatever it is, understand that marketing is not just posting on Instagram. Like I said, there's 7 components to marketing. So Instagram is one component of it. Just posting on Instagram is one component, right? And that alone will not make you sales. So understand what marketing is. And I would say at the bare minimum, you need to be using, a social media platform. So whether it's Instagram, Pinterest, Pinterest is really good. I don't know how to use it, but Pinterest, Facebook, whatever you choose to use. And then you need to be using email marketing and text marketing. A lot of people kind of slack off on those because they think Instagram's enough, but we all saw when Instagram went down that day, gosh, how many people didn't make sales because they have no other way to connect with their audience. But not only that, it's just another way to reinforce your messaging. Like if I'm going to post, hey, our launch is happening in 2 hours, I'm not only going to post that on Instagram, I'm going to send an email, and then I'm going to send a text, and then I'm going to send another email, and then I'm going to remind them on Instagram, right? So you kind of want to constantly be in your audience's face. So that's just another component of marketing that I would encourage people to get into. And lastly, get on Shopify, no GoDaddy, no, WooCommerce or whatever. Shopify is built for e-commerce. It is the #1 platform. They have amazing apps and just all kinds of, amazing capability to make your store the best that it could possibly be. So please, no more. Do not come for me to help if you are on GoDaddy, because I will say, sorry, please switch to Shopify before we start, connecting.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So we'll definitely run through this. So the 3 most important things you need to do when getting started with your e-commerce business is do your market research and niche. Have a niche. That's going to be really important to make you stand out in the market. And then number 2, become BFFs with your target audience. That is really important. And then 3, understand the 7 components of marketing and how you can start utilizing those 7 components to grow your e-commerce business. I love it. So can you, we're going to be closing, and I wanted to just have you share a little bit more about your course and how people can connect with you. So you have a course that you created that's been helping women entrepreneurs, e-commerce business owners. And so can you share a little bit more about that course and just kind of what people can expect out of it?
Yeah, for sure. So the course is called Small Business, Big Money. Even just the title is so me and what I advocate for, because even though we're small businesses, even though we have, 5,000 followers, does not limit our money making capabilities. And we have the same, potential to make money as big businesses, right? So the course is kind of it's everything that I did to build my business to where it is now, right? To reach that 6-figure point, to have those, I think my biggest month so far was like 16,000, and, to have consistent 5-figure months and those 4-figure days and those really big launches, right? So I kind of go through step by step everything that I did to get my business to where it is. And then I also, because this is something that I've noticed, I've taken a lot of courses. I bought a bunch of random courses, to see what other people are doing, and also to learn, right? I'm an advocate of learning always. So what I've noticed is a lot of these courses, they kind of just tell you what they did, but they don't give you any, insight into your own business and how you can make it work for your own. So I really try to do that with my course. I kind of try to give my clients, repeatable action steps that they can take to make it work for their business, right? So one part that I talked about was the target audience. That's 2 hours. And my course, I think all in all, I just added some more parts. I think it's like 4 hours. So it's pretty lengthy. I broke it up into 19 sections. So you can take your time, if you need to sit with it for a month, however long it takes you. But it's broken up. So go through it one section at a time. But like I said, with the target audience section, I give you exact steps of how you can find a proven buying audience, and you don't have to reinvent the wheel, right? So that's something that I really want my clients to understand. It's like success leaves clues. You just have to know where to find them, right? So it's like I help them to see where they can find those clues, how they can take this audience from this company that's already in your niche, and these people should already be buying your products, and how to find them, and how to connect with them, and how to kind of get them to be your target audience, right? So that's something that I really specialize in. And as well as getting them to, like I said, connect with them on a deeper level, more than just superficial, with their audience, and how to create content that speaks to them. That's something that I've noticed a lot of entrepreneurs lack in. And you probably see this because you're a brand photographer. A lot of us are creating content for ourselves. We think the picture is cute and it's going to sell, but it's like, this is an example that I use with my customers. I'm like, hey, let's say, and this isn't really about content, but it's the same kind of concept. Let's say, your audience, maybe they like, quality rather than fast shipping, but you're always talking about, hey, my product can get to you tomorrow. I can get to you tomorrow. Like, we have fast shipping, we have free shipping. And they're like, girl, I don't care if it gets to me in 6 weeks. I just want to make sure it's good quality, right? So it's like, you have to kind of figure out where that disconnect is with you and your target audience, and understand what it is that they really want from you. So that's what I really specialize in. But the course is so many facets. Like I said, it's 19 parts. We go over email marketing, text marketing, target audience, Instagram. We go over launch strategy. So there's a whole bunch of good stuff in there, from
so much value.
Yes. There's a lot of value. Yeah.
And what's amazing is it's so much value from someone who's gotten so much like amazing success and just under 2 years of running your business, and where it takes some people 5 years or they stop, and they quit. And so you're doing something right, obviously. And the biggest thing with online education right now is that, yes, you could YouTube University, Google University but it's going to take you longer, and courses are there. Great courses are there to help you get there faster so you can grow faster. And I think that you and I are both a testament for that, because like, I've taken courses and I've invested in mentors and coaches, right? And that's what's helped me get to the success faster. It just is. You can't do it alone. It's the saying, if you want to go alone, right? Like, you're not going to go far, right?
Right.
like, or however that goes. I'm really bad at reciting quotes, but yeah. And the other thing is that, like, I love that you are a faith-based person and company, and that you're not afraid to talk about numbers. You're not afraid to talk about money and what it can do for you. Because here's the thing, like, money doesn't amplify, like, when you come into money or when you reach success, like, it doesn't change you. It just amplifies who you were when you didn't have money. And if you think about it, more Christians need money so we could do more good in the world.
Yes.
Because there's a lot of evil people who have money, like Kim Jong-un, and it's like, how do we stop him from getting ready to ruin the world? Like, you know what I mean? Like, we empower Christians to have a good relationship with money. and to have businesses, and to be
Right.
okay with wealth and to use that money for good. Like, just think about
Yes.
it. You could feed so many children who are hungry in the United States with your money, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
you could feed so many people in a different country, or you could help other families during the holidays. Like, there's just so much you could do with your money.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just really sad for people to think that, like, oh, money it makes people evil, or it doesn't cause any good, right? It's like, well, we need money to eat. Like, how did you buy that food on your table, or those presents for your kids? Like,
Right.
or that
Mm-hmm.
car you needed to drive yourself to work and to pick up your children, like, or that house
Exactly.
to shelter your family.
Mm-hmm.
How did you receive that? Through
Right.
money. So
Mm-hmm.
to think that money is not everything, it is not everything, but money can damn sure help change the world. And you know what I
Yes.
mean? Like,
Yes.
okay, I'm dropping my mic.
Right. Brittany, can I point something out? So
Yeah,
something
yeah.
that a lot of Christians that they harp on is that, we all know this scripture, money is the root to all evil. Gosh, it drives me crazy when I see this. I was listening to a sermon by Rick Warren. He
Mm-hmm.
is a pastor in Southern California, and love him. But he was explaining this verse, and gosh, it just hit me like a ton of bricks. He broke it down, and the Bible does not say that. It says, for the love of money is a root to all evil. So it's not the only root, and it's not money in general. Money is inanimate. It is not evil. We do what we want with money. So our actions are what make it, evil or
Right.
good. But it's like people leave out for the love of money. We're not doing this. I'm not talking about mama's making money because I love money and I'm greedy and I just want
Right.
to have all the money in the world, right? It's because, yes, like you said, there is so much good that comes out of having money, especially with Christians. It's like you said, we can do so much good in the world. And something that I've realized, I don't know if it's because now I'm an entrepreneur or not, but every time I go to church, literally every time, the pastor is talking about, when they talk about hardships, they talk about, oh, if you're going through this, and they say, if you just had a bad breakup or something, they always say if something's going wrong in your business. And I don't know if I just never paid attention to it, but I was like, gosh, there's pastors, preaching about business. It's like, we need to get in the business side of things, right? We can't leave that world
Yeah.
completely secular. We need to get into it, spread some faith in it, and like, let God
Yeah.
use your business. I talk about this. I'm a huge advocate for letting God, use your business. He wants to
I
use it
love
to
that.
better his kingdom and better his relationship with you, because you're going to need him, trust me, in entrepreneurship. So it's like, I love that
Oh,
you said
yeah. Oh, yeah.
that.
I have my nights where I'm like, God, please just if you let me just have a lead come through my way. And then it's like, ding, I got a lead. I'm like,
Yes.
oh my God, yes, God. Even if that lead doesn't click me, it's like, God, you are showing me that, like, you care about my business and that people see
Right.
me and that they see what I'm doing and they like what I'm doing,
Mm-hmm.
and even though they might not be the ideal person to work with me at that time, like, you're showing me, you're giving me that faith that, like, to keep
Right.
going, even on the slow
Absolutely.
weeks or the slow months.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I love it. So this is like the best part of, I think, the whole thing, like the whole podcast. We could probably just have a whole podcast about, Christianity and money and business,
Oh, yeah.
but I think that, for me in my business, I don't talk as much about my faith, but I show it with my actions and how I treat people. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that that's the work that I'm doing,
Oh, yeah.
for the love of God. And it's great to just be able to, like, have my purpose and to see, like, the good that I'm doing in other people's lives. And I know that's the same thing for you, giving moms hope,
Mm-hmm.
and giving them strength and faith and armoring them with amazing fashionable apparel. Like, okay, we can't leave that part out. So, like, let's I would love for my listeners to connect with you, to support your shop, check out her stuff. It's amazing. I have a lot of teas from her. Where can people find you?
Right, definitely. So on Instagram for my shop, it's at Bash Baby Clothing, BASH Baby Clothing, all one word. And my website is bashbabyclothing.com. And for the coaching side, if anyone's interested, it's Mamas Making Money, MAMASMAKINMONEY. So no G. Mama's Making Money.
I love it. I love it. Well, Ciana, thank you so much for being on the Six Figure Women Entrepreneurs podcast and sharing all of your knowledge, your advice, your story. Oh my gosh, I love you. I'm so happy that you're the first person on the podcast that I could interview because I love your story. And I think that we definitely did our part to inspire people to get moving, to bring more faith into their business, and to share more of their story and really focus on community. And so if you love this episode and if it inspired you or related to you in any way, would you please be so kind as to leave a 5-star review and share it with a friend? So thank you so much for listening to the Six Figure Women Entrepreneur podcast.